but I also promised a good guest, and I'm giving you a great guest right off the top. Tonight, it airs on Impact Plus and the Ultimate Insiders on YouTube or on Fight TV, wherever you're going to watch it. This man takes on his newest mortal enemy, Joe Hendry. Today we have the one and only, very excited to welcome him on. Simon Miller joins us now. How you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, guys. It is a pleasure to be here. I enjoyed that weird opening. I like looking at Vince McMahon's moustache. And yeah, I'm having a good day. I'm having a good week. Pretty damn crazy. But no, thank you so much for having me on.
Cheers. It's good to have you. It's good to
thanks for joining us.
Bring you on. Yeah. So let's just get right into this match. So it's going to air tonight on Impact's various areas of airing. You're taking on Joe Hendry, and this all started with Food Fight. Well, it started a little bit before that with your ups and downs, and then it became a food fight. So give us a little bit of the background of the story with Joe Hendry.
Absolutely. So obviously, Impact celebrated, a milestone when they had a recent show. It was Impact 1000, I believe it was. So, we at WhatCulture's decided, well, we don't give enough love to Impact Wrestling. We would love to, but anyone that frequents, you guys will know, frequents internet wrestling community, there's a lot of content, and trying to squeeze out more content sometimes can be hard. And all I did, hands up, look, nice innocent Simon Miller over here. All I did was not particularly, enjoy what Joe Hendry had done on that evening. That's not to say that Joe Hendry isn't a wonderful pro wrestler. That's not to say that Joe Hendry hasn't made strides in the wrestling business over the last few years. But as I talked about, he took it the wrong way, and he decided to try and beat me up. I wasn't at WhatCulture HQ, which he knows, by the way. He knows I don't work there. He knows I'm a freelancer roaming around. And then, yes, we agreed to sit down for his food fight show. We threw chicken at each other, as any good combatants would do. And now we have to sell it in the ring later, like every good wrestling feud. It ends with chicken, and then you get in the ring and you see who the better man is.
Why do you think Joe Hendry is such a dick? Honestly, he tries to portray himself as a good guy, but he's kind of a little of a jerk.
I don't know. Maybe it's because people don't believe in him. Maybe that's what it is. If you don't believe in Joe Hendry, he's like, "But I've told you this 1,000 times." And again, look, generally, with my serious hat on, especially from looking at it from a UK perspective, he has made tremendous strides over the last couple of years. Like, he really, really, really has. And he's a very, very smart human being too, in terms of how he markets himself. I just think he needs to understand that sometimes people are going to say things you don't like about you, and that's okay. And it shouldn't. If every single time someone said something bad about you, it ends with you having fisticuffs, that is kind of how society works. But I think there has to be some kind of a line. But look, he put out the challenge, and I'm happy to answer that challenge and prove to him that YouTubers can still kick ass. That's the major thing we're taking away here, is that you can make wrestling videos and you can get in a ring and still prove that you deserve to be there.
Okay, but can we talk about gut check D's nuts, though?
I mean, I thought it was a good line, right? That's a great line. That's a great line. Joe said, "Do you want to be on gut check?" And I said, "Gut check these nuts." That's funny. That is funny stuff, as far as I'm concerned. He didn't like it. He still doesn't like it. He thinks I make a joke out of wrestling. And do you know what? He is correct. But it's meant to be like an all-encompassing joke. It's meant to be like, wrestling's funny. We all get in our pants and roll around. Maybe we shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. And he thinks that's me being disrespectful. Maybe he's right. I disagree. But that's what he thinks anyway.
Have you thought about making less jokes, Simon? Are you able to do that?
No, I'm not able to do that because I don't take myself seriously. That's the issue. I'd have to actually hold myself with some kind of esteem to stop making jokes. The thing is, they're all very nice jokes. They're all very silly jokes. Like, I never say anything that anybody, I don't think, well, I'm incorrect, but I always try and approach it. And I never actually say anything about, the human being. You know what I mean? It's all about what we're seeing on camera. Like that I think is sorely lacking in the I don't know, what do we call it? Wrestling personality space, content creator space. I don't know what the right term is. They're all horrible. They're all horrible terms. But I think there is, again, not one to veer too off into a different discussion, but that's kind of the way I've always approached it, because I did look at I ran the gambit. And everyone was so horrible. I feel like there's enough horribleness in the world without also doing it for something as awesome as pro wrestling. So, I always, let's take the mick out of the characters. Let's not take the mick out of the people behind the masks.
What was the reaction when this match actually got announced? Like, what kind of messages did you receive when they put that graphic up? Joe Hendry, Simon Miller.
So, look, social media has its pros and its cons. Let's just say it has its ups and its downs. I'm a terrible person. I've gone there, but that's just the life. I have never received a reaction like that on social media ever, and it was there was two very different trains of thought. One was, the hell is going on? why you want an Impact pay-per-view? Fair point. But the other one, and the one that really, gave me a huge boost. So many people were really, really happy about this. Do you know what I mean? Like it was absolutely incredible. Again, we just talked about it, but there is this idea that there is a lot of negativity and sadness and screw you, and we hope you fail. But I was getting people both, atting me in the replies and sending me, DMs saying it's so cool to see that you've done this. I've followed everything you've done over the last few years. And, it was almost like we're living vicariously through you. And the fact that you've done it kind of makes us feel like we've all done it. And that's awesome, because I don't know whether I've ever sort of marketed myself that way, but I'll absolutely take it. If we can sort of come up with this little clan that walks around just like, yeah, success, and we're all patting each other on the back, then yeah, I think that's great. And it really was. I remember, as sad as it sounds, I did kind of go to bed that night. I just felt a little bit happier, with the world, because genuinely, I mean, again, people were really, really pleased that it happened. And they also said, I'm going to go out of my way to check this match out, which comes with it a certain amount of pressure. But I quite like that. I think that's, being in a comfortable situation, I think is important for growth and all those stupid human terms that we say. But yeah, if anybody is watching this and you did send me one of those messages, please do know that you truly put a spring in my step that day. And I think I'll have to double check. But in terms of, social media engagement, I think it destroyed any kind of record that I ever had. Like I knew it was quite good, because even my dad, who thinks professional wrestling is the worst thing that has ever existed on the planet, and why he looks at the analytics of my tweets or my X post, whatever the hell we're calling it, even he was like, well, this is done very well. And then he wanted to know more about it. So I was like, if I've won my dad over, let's chalk this up to a huge success. So yeah, we'll give it a tick.
I've got to put it over, because the way that this match came together was different from how most matches on a televised wrestling program come together. It was done mostly online. Jeremy and I sat on this show and discussed it, because at the time people were kind of like, what's going on with Simon and Joe Hendry? And I said, and I explained, I was like, I think this is becoming a thing, and I'm excited because it's turning out to be a really well put together thing, as it were. So I'm looking forward to the match tonight, but here's the real question going into it. What is your Nando's order?
What is mine? Well, you see, I'm a little bit of a wuss. Actually, you know what? I am privileged though. I've been having Nando's for like 20 years, because somehow my nan, she's passed away now, but she figured out Nando's like before Nando's was a thing. Like one day we just went to see my nan, because we're all going out for Portuguese chicken, and we were like, what? Why? What? And it was Nando's. So I've been having Nando's for a good, couple of decades. But no, I am a bit of a wuss. I have lemon and herb, half chicken, because again, you got to get your protein in. And then I have spicy rice. Even that's a little bit too much for me, but you got to get your rice. And ever since they introduced that broccoli, I mean, that's just like the most boring gym food ever, isn't it? Oh, chicken, rice, and broccoli. That's just what I've explained. But I do enjoy it. Although, if we are going off piste, not enough people talk about this. Nando's make a good mashed potato. Now, it's rare to say that about a restaurant that is mostly chicken focused. But yeah, if you haven't tried the mashed potato, check it out. It's good stuff. Which is another reason why me throwing the lemon and herb chicken at Joe was sad. I could have eaten that, and instead it ended up on his jacket, and he wasn't very happy about it. That chicken was not edible once all that was done. I tried. It was a bad idea.
Was there any hesitation to kind of do all of this because of the potential backlash and reaction? Our boss, our friend Sean Ross Sapp, he did an impaler DDT to the reaction of nothing, and it got a lot of backlash from that, of like, what is this journalist doing trying to do wrestling stuff? Like, did that thought ever cross your mind?
So, I mean, look, I know that was most unfair what happened to Sean, because he's trained to be a wrestler and all of that, and people just decided to forget that was a thing. But I think I think I just got lucky. I think most people within the space we were kind of advertising the match knew that I wrestled a lot in the UK. So I think they just saw it as, oh, he's making a natural next step. I suppose the difficult thing was to pull back the curtain a little bit. But again, we all know what's going on here. When somehow we had successfully convinced people that it was legit, that's when it did get a little bit awkward, because I had promoters messaging me, I had other wrestlers messaging me, I had wrestling fans mentioning me, going like, are you okay, do you need help? Other people being like, because it was deliberately meant to be done, sometimes he was a bit of a dick, sometimes I was a bit of a dick. Like, that's how I think you get people to believe in it, because even if you're the nicest person ever, if I come up and punch you in the face, you're going to punch me back. You're not going to be like, no, I do not resort to violence. So there was this sort of moment where I was a bit like, oh man, people think this is real, which I was not expecting. How do I kind of sort of circumvent this without, it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very delicate space, because obviously you want to keep the dream alive. But, as soon as we threw chicken at each other, this was always part of the plan. When we threw chicken at each other, everybody's going to know what's going on. It's so absurd. And I was a bit like, it could upset some people. And it did. I got some of the tweets being like, oh, I can't believe you tried to pull the wool over my eyes. But I would say that's probably I think that's probably a shame about somewhere where the wrestling industry as a whole has headed in. No one actually likes being worked anymore, even though that's the whole point of wrestling, is to be worked, going, oh, you scallywags, you kind of got me there. But no, yeah, there was certainly a couple of weeks where it was a bit rickety, especially when it was my turn to play, the bigger asshole, because mostly that's not what I do. But again, to make this work, we knew that we had to do it. But it actually was quite fun. And now I've gone through it once, I think I'd handle it better the second time. But I certainly got a lot of messages of people going, oh, you coward YouTuber, you're running away from Joe Hendry. And you just have to know, like, yeah, big deal. What are you going to do about it? So I think that made it more fun, though. And again, let's not pretend otherwise. This is the biggest platform I've ever been offered as a wrestler. So I just told everybody involved, whatever you want me to do, I'm just going to do it. Do you know what I mean? You've given me this opportunity. And we've all heard this analogy 1,000 times. If I turn up on Steven Spielberg's set, I don't go, Steve, I'm going to do it my way. Screw you. I'm going to do what I'm told, and I'm going to make the best of it. And that's what they asked me to do. And I was like, yeah, let's go have some fun. And it really was fun. I can't lie. It's some of the best stuff I've done on that side of the wrestling bubble.
No, you've got to hit to more with that doesn't work for me, brother. Like, whatever he asks you to do, like, nah, that doesn't work for me, brother. Not doing that tonight.
I should have done it. I'm a YouTuber, man. You can't say that to me.
Where TN ain't doing that.
Yeah, there you go. There is.
Awful. That was awful. Princess Diana sent us a super chat. Rest her soul. Simon is truly the best of us. Yeah, my favorite wrestling personality. Sorry. And bald man. And don't tell William. But coming into that, have you thought about becoming more of an asshole personality? Because you just kind of touched on it.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that. Like, we're here to have fun and have a chat, but we're here to sell a pay-per-view too. All I'm going to say is this, because I don't want to give the game away too much. If you, for many years, have wanted to see a different side to Simon Miller, you want to buy Turning Point this evening or tomorrow or whatever, because it's on streaming. That was one of the things that was so appealing about this to me as well, is that after the chats, Impact wanted to present me in a very different way. And it was very exciting because, again, I'm probably pulling the curtain back a little bit too much, but let's not be ridiculous. It is a creative endeavor, and it's fun to challenge yourself in different ways. So there is a twist on this show. People should be able to figure this out. I'm doing a lot of wink, wink, nudge, nudge here. But there is a twist on this show, and it worked out so well, I almost broke it by smiling too much because I just couldn't believe it. But again, it will go out to the wider audience this evening. And if it does get received as well as it did in the building, then I'm going to be the happiest man ever. But yeah, no, it absolutely was. But I enjoyed it because it felt completely different. And I like that, right? That's what we can all do the same thing over and over, and that's awesome. But sometimes it's good to have some fun as well, which is why I'm also really excited for people to see this, because some people won't see it coming, and hopefully that gets a good reaction. I hope. I cross my fingers.
Joel pulled it up. I'm gonna pull it up again. But Peter Bradders said, "As someone there for Turning Point, it was amazing, and I love the match." And cool. Why Solable also said he would let you punch him in the face if that's something you would want to do.
Done. Awesome. Let's do it.
We'll set that up.
I have a couple of more questions that are non-Impact related. I gotta ask: have you considered getting into toe wrestling?
Is this based on something I did recently? Is this
Yes,
what
it
you've
is.
looked up? Yeah. How weird was that? Right,
That
let's
was
fill
very
people in.
strange.
So seriously, here I am sat at this very desk here with my computer, and all of a sudden it goes ping, and I get an email, and it's from Radio 2. Now, people that don't know, BBC Radio 2 is probably the biggest radio station in the UK. Radio 1 is the more super cool, hip, 18 to 34 radio station. But Radio 2 is sort of incorporates that demographic and an older one too. So it has mad listenerships. And the guy that does the afternoon show is called Jeremy Vine. He's somewhat of a controversial figure because he's very loud on social media. So therefore he winds people up. And it was from their producer saying, "Oh, Simon, somebody's recommended us to you, you're a wrestler. You're also an MC. Can you come in and do some commentary as Jeremy Vine takes on the world toe wrestling champion?" Now I read this email and I'm like, well, it's a prank email. It's a prank email. What the flip? But, I messaged back because I'm like, well, that sounds interesting. And they gave me a call. So, yeah, about 2 months ago, I went into London. I went to the BBC Radio 2 studios, which is a very professional outlet, I shall have you know. And I brought a singlet for Jeremy Vine to wear, which was also strange. And I sat there and I watched the world toe wrestling champion take him on. I had to learn all the rules. And it was the most bizarre thing I've done in 2023. But it's also one of those cool things that only professional wrestling could throw at you. I don't think I'll get into it. I don't know if anyone... Go on YouTube toe wrestling right now. It's like Thumb Wars, whatever it's called these days, but obviously with your feet. And I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't really want to touch anybody else's feet. That's the truth of it. It's a little bit... But this guy was really good. My gosh, he absolutely smashed it. But no. So yes, I have thought about it, and my answer is a resounding no. I don't want to do it. So strange, but also pretty cool. Again, pure pro wrestling.
Jeremy, I don't know if you got another one.
Oh, I didn't know if you had one. You said you had a couple non-wrestling. I didn't know if there was another one besides toe wrestling, which I was not expecting at all. I was just gonna ask, getting back into the Impact and wrestling. They were back in the UK for the first time in like forever. Just the overall vibe of the show and Impact when rebranding back to TNA. What was the overall vibe back there?
It was crazy. Like, again, I wasn't at the Glasgow or Coventry shows, but I saw the clips and I heard from the guys. Mad crowds. Do you know what I mean? So loud. And the Newcastle show where Turning Point is live from. I kind of went and stood behind the curtain when the show started just to get that classic thing, get a feel. What do people sound like? And I don't know what the attendance was. It was probably sold out, and that place holds about 2,500 people or something like that. But it was so loud, and they were so up for it, and they were just, they kept that energy up for the whole show, which is a good 3 hours long. And apparently, it was the same for the whole tour. And we've kind of seen it back in the day, I suppose, because TNA/Impact is on free TV over here. It's just opened it up for a bigger fan base, especially sort of back in the 2010, whenever it was, that era. If you didn't want to pay for WWE, you could just watch TNA. And I think that's kind of meant over here. A lot of people grow up with it. So it's their wrestling company of choice. Like a lot of the younger wrestlers that are on the scene over here, they're not WWE guys, they're TNA guys. Because again, they don't have any money when they're children. So they're not going to go for Sky or BT or TNT as it is now over here. They watched it on free television. And therefore, I think that's kind of translated across to the fan base too. So even though they haven't been over in 8 years or whatever it was, they still want to go back. And the fact that they announced it was TNA again, like a week before, again, just constant TNA chants. So it was really cool to see, because I think that's been the best thing about wrestling this year, is that there is so much wrestling on TV, but you can pick and choose what you want. And of course, WWE has a bigger fan base and Impact doesn't have as big a fan base, but there's still people that are so damn passionate about it and they're so dialed in. And really, that's all you can ask for, right? Is an audience that is happy to support you and, back your product. So yeah, it was awesome to see. I think no one has said anything to me, but the vibe was they're going to come back a lot sooner, I presume in 2024. And again, I think the more they come over and the more they can reestablish themselves here, they just, do bigger venues. And again, they have such a cool footing over here. And I thought it was also, not just me, but it was so badass how they reached out to a bunch of UK wrestlers to get that sort of feel on the show. And obviously they signed Leon off the back of it too. Leon Slater, who's just nonsense wrestler. I mean, I don't know how he does half the things that he does do. So I do think they have, like I say, a really cool connection over here. And I hope they can keep it going, because, WWE was over here on Sunday too. And obviously AEW had the All In show. So we're just winning. we're just winning right now. And I'm never going to get mad at that, because there was a long while after WCW died where we would just get those ridiculous UK pay-per-views by WWE, and they were just glorified house shows. They were fun going to, but after every one, you drove home going, I kind of think they pulled the wool over our eyes. I don't actually think that meant anything. So to get to this space now, I just think it's super cool. And it almost increases your fandom even more, because you actually have something to get more invested in.
I was going to ask, I like the idea of them coming back, because you've got Will Ospreay wanting to come back in the TNA ring. You've got Zack Sabre Jr. recently saying he wants to compete in Impact. To which I say, you have until December, Zach, because then it's TNA. But regardless, there's plenty of UK talent that's available and ready to work in TNA. And I hadn't realized, like you said, it's on free TV in the UK, so the availability is right there. It's sound, so that's pretty wild. My last question for you: what's your favorite Metallica song and your favorite Metallica album? I know you were a Met Club fan.
I mean, obsessive. My girlfriend thinks I'm weird. There's a room in my house that's dedicated to Metallica memorabilia, which I'm genuinely embarrassed about, but also don't care. So it changes every day. I mean, you have to say that because it's true. But I'm going to give you the boring answers. Actually, no, I'll give you a different answer. My favorite Metallica song right now is Creeping Death, mostly because it came on in the gym yesterday. And this is why I love Metallica so much, and I'm sure people can relate to it. It was like I'd never heard it before. Who knows why, right? It just got me. And I was like, this is the greatest riff I've ever heard in my life. So I'm going to throw Creeping Death in there. But Master of Puppets is my favorite album, just because, again, there's a bias to it in the sense it was the first album I ever heard by Metallica. And as stupid as it sounds, when I did first hear Metallica, it totally changed what I thought music was. Like, I was super young, and all my friends were listening to pop music and R&B, which I liked to a certain extent, but it didn't really do much for me. Then I heard Master of Puppets, and it was like, oh my gosh, is this how they feel about that genre of music? And it never gets old. But I'm such a Metallica fan. I've even gone through Lulu a couple of times, the Lou Reed album, and been like, well, it's not that bad. And look, it is that bad. It's that bad. It's bad. That should be like, all copies should be buried in the center of the earth, and nobody should be allowed to listen to it. But sometimes I would go on these flights of fancies and go, well, actually, from 1 minute 27 to 2 minutes 12, that riff is pretty good. And maybe we can draw something out of that. But no, yeah, right now I go for Creeping Death, and I'll go for Master of Puppets. But I will also give a shout out to No Leaf Clover, because nobody ever talks about that song. Especially because it was just a random song they did on S&M one day. They just played it live with it. That's a new song. It was like, what? And that was it. Never talked about it again until they reintroduced it into their live set years later. So,
but so, the live version that they do without a symphony orchestra just doesn't have the same appeal. Like, it's so much better and broader with a full symphony orchestra.
That 1999 version, dare I say it, cue the internet melting down, is actually perfect. Like, it is perfect. And really, if they'd never played it again, that probably would have added to its sort of specialness as well. But I do love that song. Yeah, it's amazing.
I grew up with Metallica and Anthrax, Pantera.
And,
a lot of the metal bands from that era. So I needed to ask, because Metallica was big in my day, and Megadeth, of course.
Always. Crazy Dave Mustaine.
You know what? You and I might just have a whole other conversation, a whole separate time about metal and all that stuff. But I've ran out of stuff to talk about for now. We're gonna let you go about your day. I know you got a busy night tonight, so why don't you plug your stuff and get on out of here?
Hell yeah. I mean, if you just go to What Culture Wrestling on YouTube, search for myself, Simon Miller, you get 2 different channels. And very sadly, if I had known where my career was going, I never would have called myself this when I signed up to social media. Simon Miller 316 on all platforms. Again, when I signed up for that, I was like working in a completely different industry, and I couldn't have Simon Miller, obviously. So I thought, well, I like Stone Cold Steve Austin. And now it's just become a thing. And if you are in the UK and you're living in Birmingham, I'll see you this evening. So I'm about to jump in a car and go wrestle, which I'm very, very excited about, for Kamikaze Wrestling. So I'll give them a shout out too. But yeah, if you just search for Simon Miller, usually my stupid bald head pops up, and any kind of support would rock. And guys, I also want to say thank you very much for having me on. I just love it. Anytime anybody asks me, I feel super privileged. So thank you very much.
It was a pleasure having you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, appreciate you joining us, Simon. Weisel asked give the chat an up, please.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone, the chat gets an up, you guys get an up, and the whole shebang gets a golden up. Don't forget, none of that means anything. But if it means something to you, I massively appreciate it. So golden ups all round.
There you go. Everybody's popping for the golden up. Thank you, Simon. We appreciate it. Everyone,
My
check out
pleasure.
Turning Point tonight. Watch Simon kick the shit out of Joe Hendry.
We'll be covering it tonight. We'll be covering it tonight, youtube.com/Fightful, myself and Cresta Star. We will have a post show after Turning Point talking about this, putting over Simon, and I'm sure burying the absolute heel Joe Hendry. That's what we're going to do. Simon,
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're looking forward to doing it again.
Thanks,
My pleasure,
Simon.
guys. I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care.